Hi, I'm Amy Koranek. I'm in the Sculpey Design Center today talking about one of my favorite subjects, Mokume Gane. We get questions all the time about how is Mokume Gane done, because it's one of those techniques that's so simple and easy to do, yet it yields such fantastic patterns and it looks very complex. So there are several different ways to do Mokume Gane. We're going to go through some of those. I'm going to show you how to pick colors and which technique would work best for which application. And all around me you'll see a lot of projects here that I've done, and some are done by other artists. And these highlight just some of the different techniques. For example, this little dish has a pattern that goes all the way through the clay, which makes it completely reversible. There's another type that uses a texture sheet, and that is shown here in this little dish. And it's a beautiful way to use a texture and just to get layers and layers of detail. This one is done using a ripple blade technique, which is so simple and so easy, but just looks really complex and complicated. So next, let's get started together to take a look at how to do a couple different Mokume Gane techniques so that you can use it for your own home decor and jewelry items. Okay, let's do some Mokume Gane together. Mokume Gane is just such an exciting way to make lots of neat patterns and blend colors together. It works well for jewelry pieces, for home decor, and there's a couple different methods to start off with. The first one I'm going to show you is the thick slab method, and I'm also going to do that in two different styles. So in the thick slab, this one is like a random pattern traditional Mokume Gane, and this one was done with our wavy blade. So first I want to tell you how I pick colors. In this set I'm going to go kind of like this color scheme. This is all done in Primo. Souffle works wonderful too for Mokume Gane, but I'm doing Primo today. This is graphite pearl, ecru, yellow gold glitter, and white. And when I do a Mokume Gane work, I like to use one or two pearls, so that would be this one. I like to use at least one flat color, and what I mean by flat is no pearl, no glitter, and that would be the ecru and the white. And then I also like to always incorporate a glitter, and that would be the yellow gold glitter. The reason I do that is because when you shave through all those slices, you just get this really nice contrast of glitter against flat and pearl essence against glitter and against flat, and I feel like it just gives you really a lot of eye candy plays into the whole effect. So I'm going to stack these up just the way I have them laid out with white on the bottom. And I also plan my stack so that in this case I have two flat colors. I have each of the flats, the white and the ecru, are not touching each other. Instead they have a glitter sheet sandwiched between them. And then I have my pearl sheet on top. So I'm alternating pearl and glitter or flat. Also, I've got my darkest color on the top because when we're stabbing through the Mokume slab, it's that dark color, whatever color's on top is going to carry down through the slab. And so I feel like the dark color highlights the details the best. So I like to put my dark color on top. I'm just rolling this a little bit thinner with my acrylic clay rollers so that it will go nicely through my pasta machine. And so now I have this plenty thin to run safely through my machine without stripping my gears. I have this on the thickest setting, and I'm just going to run it through once. Then I will cut it and stack it and run it through again. And then I'm going to cut and stack and run one more time. I'm going to put that weird edge there on the bottom. In fact, I think I'll just get rid of it. I'm going to go through one more time. Now at this point we have a thin sheet with lots and lots of layers of stripes. And we could use this as a thin sheet technique, but I promised to show you a thick slab technique. So what I'm going to do is section this into four as equal as I can pieces and then restack them. And now this is giving me a much thicker landscape to work with. So some people prefer to work in a very thick pile, some people like a thinner pile. I'm just going to straighten this one up. it's really up to your preference. As you start playing around with Mokume Gane, you're going to find out what works best for you, and I'm sure that you will come to really enjoy whichever method is best for you. I'm just shaping this with my hands to give it more of a uniform, shape, something that's a little easier to work with. And you can see that I'm not being overly picky about the edges, and that's because in Mokume Gane you really have a lot of freedom for your layers to not have to be perfectly even or perfectly level. So there's our slab, and that's fairly thick. Now the thick slab technique gives you the ability to make lots of different cuts through the slab, and so it's good to know how to do it this way. All right, so first I want to start off with, I'm just going to cut a circle out, and everything we're doing is just adding detail to the slab, because what's happening is as I'm using these tools, I am forcing the clay at higher levels to go down and follow the tool into the layers below, and that's what creates the beautiful and delicate patterns. Next, I'm going to use this wave blade, and I'm actually going to kind of rock it as I push it down through so that it grabs more clay and pulls it down along the edges of the blade. I'm also making my cuts as deeply as possible so that those cuts all go down through the slab quite a bit. Now, you don't always have to use strictly polymer clay tools. You can find some things in your junk drawer, and those make exciting elements and neat touches to your Mokume. So here's what it looks like with a Phillips screwdriver. And then I've got this cute little straw, like a coffee stirrer, and I'm going to use it to make some impressions. It's just all about stabbing and poking things down through the clay so that you get a variety of patterns. This is a little Allen wrench, so that's kind of fun. And let's finish up with some real straight little lines with one of our style and detail tools, like maybe this rubber tip that has a very straight edge to it. We'll just put some of these in here. So you can make this pattern right here as random or as controlled as you like, just depending on how you want it to look in the end. Okay, now that I've got it all stabbed, what I want to do is heal it by rolling over the top. And some people will call this slab of clay a billet, which we borrow from other art and manufacturing forms. A billet is just a pile of different substrates piled together for whatever reason. So sometimes when you're seeing people do a Mokume demo, they might refer to the slab as a billet. All right, I have rolled that quite a bit. You can roll as much as you want to completely heal the billet until no scars remain, or you can leave some scars open like we have in a few areas. Like right here, I've left these quite open, and all along here, these are open. I can even see the marks my wave blade made and my other cuts. And so that kind of leaves some detail in place. It's up to you completely how far you go with either healing it or leaving it scarred. Now what I like to do is use my flexible blade as my cutter, and this is just a matter of preference for me. Let's stop for just a second so I can show you that I already have a piece of clay. This has been sheeted through my pasta machine to the second thickest setting. And what I'm going to do with this is when I shave through this with my flexible blade, it's going to reveal a bunch of really pretty patterns underneath, and I want to also to save my shavings. So I have that piece of clay set aside so that I can lay my shavings on top of it. And so here's one of the beautiful shavings. Now there's a method to my selecting my background clay as well. I usually always pick a clay that has a lot of glitter or shine to it, because when you have these little windows that open up in your Mokume shave, like right there, it's very cool to see that glitter popping up through that little hole. I'm going to clean my blade a little bit, and then I'm going to do another shave. So be super careful when you're wiping your blades. But you can see the super cool pattern that's being revealed in the billet. And as I'm shaving, you can even see how those holes are open along my blade. So they can be as open or as closed as you like. And here's another really good shaving right there. And I'm really liking this colorway and all the glitter and all the shine that's showing through. So you can see that not only is the billet completely usable, but also the scraps that you're removing from the billet, they have just as much beauty as the billet itself. So now that you have this constructed, you can use both of these in jewelry and in different project patterns. Okay, so that is Mokume Gane in a traditional stabbing technique. Next, let's look at how to use your wave blade to make another style of Mokume Gane. So let's do exactly the same colorway, and that will help us see how different they are. So white on the bottom, yellow gold glitter, ecru, and graphite pearl on top. I'm always putting the dark color on top because you can see how it shows through in all the different little detail areas. And I think I'll just move this out of my way for a second. All right, here again, let's roll it to make it thin enough to go safely through our pasta machine without damaging the gears at all or undue wear and tear on our pasta machine, because we want to take good care of our tools. And that looks really good there. So I've got this on the thickest setting, and I'll go through once and cut, just like we did before. So I'm making the exact same style billet twice. And then 3 times through. Now you can also change up the way your Mokume Gane looks just by going through the pasta machine more times or going through the pasta machine less time, or varying your thickness of sheets depending on what colors you're using or what color you want to be dominant. So there's just all kinds of ways that you can vary your Mokume Gane, you know, just by your own preferences. So I've got another little billet here, and I'm going to square it up with my fingertip pressure just to make it kind of a normal rectangle shape. And I want to roll over this just a bit to smooth it. Okay, so when I do the ripple blade technique, I like to stand my billet on end or on its side like this to cut down through it. So what I'm going for now is compressing my slab so that it makes it really thick, and it will kind of stand up on its own like so. So part of the process is just thinking ahead to how you like to work. All right, now I'll stand it on end and give it a good press so that it wants to stand up straight and stick to my work surface, my silicone work mat. Then I'm going to take my ripple blade and I'm going to cut down through here. My clay is pretty warm, so I'm just rocking the blade a bit to get it to want to cut through. And then when you open this up, you have just this beautiful set of little ovals and circles and stripes, and it's a really pretty effect that you can only get with this wavy blade. And now at this point, I could obviously take more and more slices like so, and every time I sliced, I would get a whole different look and feel. I might have circles in the middle with stripes on top, or I might have circles over more to one edge. But anyway, this is just a really pretty, like, knurled wood type look. Now you can use it with all these beautiful waves in it if you like, or you can flatten it through your pasta machine, even make it a little bit thinner so it goes further. And now I have a really pretty flat sheet or a really pretty wavy sheet that I can use for bead making or for a veneer on a picture frame or any home decor item. So these are 2 methods for making Mokume Gane in a thick slab, traditional and ripple blade, and I hope you have fun trying those for yourself. Next, let's take a look at making Mokume Gane in a thin slab technique. So for thin slabs, I like to use the thin sheets to like do a texture impression. This little dish has one texture on one side and it has a whole nother texture on the back. It's also nice for doing like a really decorative planned pattern. And so those are the reasons why, or the instances when I like to make a thin pattern sheet. So I have my clays all sheeted through on my pasta machine on the thickest setting, and I'm just going to turn that back to the thick. And now I'm going to pile them up. And I have purple pearl on the bottom and then pearl next. I have blue glitter, and then I have a flat color that is Primo purple. Now souffle is great for Mokume Gane too. I just happen to be using Primo colors today. Now there is a method to my selection of colors. In this situation, I'm doing an analogous color system, which means that basically these two purples and the blue would be next to each other on a color wheel, and that's what we call an analogous color system. And the reason it works well for Mokume Gane is because each and every color is going to blend slightly into the one next door. And so we know that if they're analogous, if they're near each other on the color wheel, that they're going to blend really nicely together. Also, it's important to think about how the bottom color goes with the top color. In this case, they're both purples, and that will be a really pretty blend. Because by the time we get our stack made, the bottom color is going to come in contact and interact with the top color. So I'm going to press this through on my pasta machine on the thickest setting. So now I have my sheets all laminated together, and I have them much thinner than they were. And I'm going to do this a total of 3 times, just like I did on the thick slab. So that was 1, and now this is 2. And then I'm going to cut and repeat. And now this is number 3. So now I really have a lot of very, very thin stripes in layers going through the sheet. Now, if you want to check out the video on the thick slab technique, if you were going to do thick slab at this point, you would quarter this and pile it up thicker and work with it from that standpoint. But for the types of techniques I want to show you now, I'm making a thin slab, and I want to roll this down to my work surface so that it sticks. Okay, let me just take a second and show you where I'm going with this. This sample is this colorway exactly, and I made a tube bead and a little dangle from the hollow bead maker with this. And also the background where I caught my shavings is Opal Primo, and so we'll talk about that more when we get to it. First, I want to set about making my little design. And so what I'm going to do is make a series of circles in this design, and I'm going to push these all the way through to the work surface below. And next I'm going to border that with a series of wave blade cuts. And I'm also going all the way through to the bottom. Next, let's make some little dashes and dots. I'm going to use the rubber tip tool to make a series of just really straight dashes here. And I'm going to use my large etch and pearl to make a little bullseye design in the center of each of these. And then I'll use my 2mm ball to puncture the center of that. So every time you make a cut into your slab of layers of clay, what you're doing is you are catching the top color and you're dragging it down through or forcing it down through the layers below. And so that's why you get these really beautiful patterns that can emerge either randomly or as planned as you want them to be. So let's just go a little further here, and I'm going to repeat the pattern that I did in the center just very quickly. There's my little gash maker there. So think about things that make interesting marks in clay, and any of those will work really well. Okay, next it's time to shave this piece. So let me do a 2-second tidy and get things where I want them. I've got my opal primo. I have that sheeted through the pasta machine on the thickest setting, and I have it set next here so that I can catch my shavings there. Next, I'm going to heal the little slab by rolling over it with the acrylic clay roller. And you can either heal it so much that your cracks and cuts go completely away, or you can leave some of them open. This is really up to you. This is where you have the opportunity to let your own style and the way that you do this technique shine through. So that looks good. I generally leave so that I can kind of see the different areas. So next I'm going to use this short flexible blade, and I want to make sure it's really clean. Be super careful when you're cleaning your blades. And now I'm ready to shave through my slab of colors. Now I like to use the flexible blade because it's very difficult to shave the entire thing at once. But if you flex your blade a bit, you can really start shaving in one area and just pull across. And look at how pretty that is as the pattern emerges. Now if I'm super careful, what I can do is peel off this shaving. Look at that. That's so pretty. Okay, now I have my opal clay here, and I'm just going to gently lay this down, and actually I'm doing this quite randomly. I'm not trying to recreate the pattern that I shaved. I'm just putting the pieces there where they can be captured in a way that I can use them in the future. Now, see how you get the beautiful pattern emerging, and like right here, there's even some blue re-emerging through some of the lower layers. That's because right there, I cut a little deeper than I did in the other areas. And so you can also control how your pattern looks by the depth of the shave. But try to get these little shavings off and then just remount them over here on this piece of clay to capture them and make them something usable. Now the reason I picked the opal clay for the background is I love bling, and so I love those little, the opal has those really cool chunks of bling shining through it, and I think those play really well in between the spaces, the negative spaces in between these Mokume Gane shavings. Look how pretty that is. Now you can keep shaving as much or as little as you would like. And then now I have two very usable sheets. I can wrap some of these veneers around beads. I can use them to cover vessels, to cover ink pens, to make gifts in that way. And it's just super usable and super pretty. Now this sheet, since it has a little bit of a raised surface where I put the shavings down, typically what I like to do with it is I'll start on my thickest setting and I'll press it back through. And then I will work my way down step by step until I have a sheet that is just completely flat. And so in this case, I'm going all the way down to the third thickest setting. And now it appears as though my little shavings have just become completely one with the background sheet. It's just really beautiful. I can now take pieces from this. I can wrap the pieces around beads or make these hollow bead pieces. It's just truly beautiful. And then I have this coordinating piece as well. Okay, I have to show you one more thing about this method, and that is if you can get your sheet flipped over, which I'll try a stiffer blade. If you can get this sheet flipped over and shave it from the back, you get yet another coordinating piece of clay to use in conjunction with those other two. All right, now remember how when I made all my cuts, I tried really hard to go all the way through to the bottom, and you can even see the circles, how they came all the way through that base color that was on the very bottom. That if I take my blade, and I'm going to clean it one more time, because my glitters and my mica and all that kind of collect on there as I'm shaving, I'm flexing my blade gently and then pulling it toward me. And this is all the same clay, but look at what a different colorway you get, and you get different colors emerging as the dominant and the recessive. This gives you even more patterns to play with and make all these different coordinating sheets. Look how pretty that one looks now. So that is one method. I call that the planned pattern, because you planned the pattern and you made it happen. And that is a thin Mokume Gane sheet technique. Next, let's take a look at doing the same planned pattern only by using a texture sheet. This is Mokume Gane in the thin slab technique and using a texture sheet. So this little dish has one texture on top and it has a whole different texture on the bottom. So using textures is a really great way to jumpstart your creative engine if you want to do some quick and easy Mokume Gane. I'm doing a little pile up here of the colors that we have in front of us, and I'm using Primo just because I love Primo. You can do this so easily with souffle as well, and it makes a beautiful slab. I'm using an analogous color system because I know all these colors will play well together, and then the pearl just gives us a little pop and a little really good contrast inside the slab. So I've rolled over this with the acrylic clay roller just to make it thinner and easy to go through my pasta machine on the thickest setting. So I'm going to push all of those through once, and then I'm going to cut it in half, push it through again, and again for a total of 3 times. And all I'm doing is laminating the sheets together and making them super duper thin. That's what this is all about. Okay, so I'm working in a thin landscape, and I want to show you another little trick at this point. So I'm going to use a texture sheet on top of this, but what I want to do right now is turn one of these the other direction, so that you can instantly see how different it looks by reordering the colors. Okay, I've got our floral texture sheet, and I'm actually going to texture both of these at the same time. I'm going to use the dandelion and the wood grain, and I'm just going to line it up right down the middle where that seam is in our 2 colors. So to use a texture sheet, I always make the texture bite into the clay first by using fingertip or the palm of my hand, whatever I can to make a lot of good pressure. And Sculpey texture sheets are really easy to see through, so I can see where I need to put more pressure and make sure it's nice and even. Then I'll use my roller. Once I'm sure this is biting into the clay, I'll use my roller to really put in the texture quite well. And in troubled spots, you can turn your roller on end and really burnish that in. But you basically want to get the texture as deep as it will go. And if I look through here, I can see, wow, I've got really a lot of depth. I think I've got it as far as it will go. Now I'm just going to peel this back, and there I have some really nice textures from the floral texture sheet. Okay, now all we have to do is shave the texture off. And I'm going to switch to my flexible blade for shaving, and I always want to make sure that my blade is clean. When I work with clay, I'm always using a mica or a glitter clay, and those tend to collect on the edge of the blade, so I always want to make sure I clean that off. I like to use the flexible blade because it's really hard to shave this entire sheet even at once. So the flexible blade gives me the ability to just do a shave in a small area, and see how you can see the blade shining through the little lacy areas of the clay. That is a really good sign that I have not gone too far or too deep. Look at how pretty that is. Okay, I also have this sheet of opal clay already sheeted on the thickest setting, and what it's going to do is catch all my beautiful shavings, because those are just too pretty to waste, but they're almost too skinny to use. So if I mount them on a thicker sheet like so, that gives me a lot more real estate to play with later. So basically when you're doing the texture shave, you want to just remove the texture. And that's why we do this in a thin sheet, because since all you're removing is that texture, you really don't need a big pile of clay. You just need to remove what's there. If you go really deep under the texture, you're going to get just solid colors again. And I love the way the opal mica pieces shine through the clay and shine through all the little windows that are made in the Mokume Gane slices. So that's why it makes such a good background. Now don't worry if these look all crooked. It's the randomness of this that will actually lend to the beauty. Okay, one more shade and then I want to talk about the colorway. You can even just use your blade to flip that over. And I think I'll grab a little tool here and pick up these small pieces. Okay, now these are all the exact same color, but it looks really different from left to right because of the order of the colors. And remember how I said each color affects the color next to it? Because you've changed the order, it makes even more variation, even though it's the same family of colors. And I love that because it gives you the ability to make coordinating sheets of clay that work super well together, and they all belong to the same family, and so you can make pendant and earrings and all different pieces from the same colorway, but they have just these beautiful textures and different color influences between them. So there's Mokume Gane using a texture sheet in a thin sheet, and I hope you have fun trying that on your next creative project.